let's talk now to Newsday columnist Dan Raviv, who joins me from New York. Dan, as these Russian attacks continue in Ukraine for a seventh day, give us the big picture of how this is all being seen from an international perspective.
Well, there's no question that the United States is watching this closely in the hope that Russia will fail. And that seems to be the international picture right now. The UN General Assembly overwhelmingly passed a resolution that condemns Russia for invading Ukraine. Just a few countries that are friendly and close to Russia, including Syria, voted with the Russians against. There were abstentions by big nations, including China. But you may know there was a lot of focus on Israel, which tries to have good relations with both Russia and Ukraine, and Israel was in a mood to maybe abstain, but instead voted with the United States and others. So it's all a matter now of choosing sides. And there's no question that here in the United States, President Joe Biden has decided to choose sides with the Ukrainian people, as you were reporting, sending even more weapons to Ukraine.
Yeah, and you just said there that there's hope that Russia will fail, and it does seem like the Russian forces have been met with quite a bit more resistance than perhaps Putin was anticipating. And I'm wondering about all these sanctions and measures that we're seeing to isolate Putin and Russia. Are those likely to work? I mean, are those even effective? And what possibly more can be done? What do you think that we'll likely see going forward?
I don't know about you, Rachel, but I do know some well-traveled Russians, people who are doing well. They are in that new upper middle class, yes, even wealthy people. Since the fall of communism more than 30 years ago, they're really angry. They did not want this to be cut off from Western banks, to be cut off from the ability to travel. They're angry, and that will filter to President Vladimir Putin, but he seems very intent on not being seen as a loser in this. That seems to be the big fight right now. Now, the Russian people are suffering. They're going to find their economic conditions getting worse and worse as the ruble devalues. That's the Russian currency. It means Russians can't buy much from overseas. We'll have to see if Putin can really stand up against that and maybe turn this into a victory for him. Right now, it's very difficult for his side.
Yeah. You said that Putin does not want to be seen as a loser in all this. And I know it's really impossible to know what's going on inside his head, but it does seem unlikely that he is willing to back down. As this drags on for days, maybe even weeks or months, where do you see this all headed?
Well, once again, I think we do have to follow the money. I spoke about the economic impact of the sanctions that are almost worldwide against Russia. That'll affect Russian people. That'll affect the so-called oligarchs and will affect Putin himself. But in addition to that, there's the cost of waging that war. What you saw on the map there, all those battlefields, the occupation of territory, it costs billions of dollars per day in fuel, food, the cost of weaponry. I'm not sure that Russia thought this would take as long as it has taken. Apparently, Russia thought it could achieve victory in like 2 days. This may be too expensive. And in some way, this is the hope, by the way, of the United States government. Putin will decide to back down, but the U.S. says NATO, the alliance, is not going to give him what he wants, a promise that Ukraine will never join NATO. If anything, NATO leaders are thinking about Ukraine in a warmer way than ever.
All right, Dan Raviv in New York. Dan, thank you for that assessment.